21 Savage, Latto, Kiana. What if everything you thought you knew about one of hip-hop's messiest love triangles was completely wrong? What if the chaos you've been watching unfold online wasn't actually chaos at all, but a carefully orchestrated arrangement that everyone involved had already agreed to? I live with my man. I don't even come second. Y'all need to get off the tea pages and go touch grass. My privacy is driving you up a wall, the side chick claims. But here's where it gets interesting. Insiders are now claiming something that fundamentally changes how we understand this entire situation. Latto is claiming that not only is Kiana on board with her relationship with 21, but they allegedly had a threesome together, and they live as one big happy family, sister-wives energy. And then there's Kiana, the legal wife, the woman who, by all accounts, should be furious, should be leaving, should be going public with her pain. Instead, she did something that nobody expected. She liked the pregnancy announcement post. Say what? Yeah, Kiana liking the picture made it more than clear that she had no intentions of leaving that man. She liked the announcement. So the question isn't who's the real wife anymore. The question is, was there ever actually a scandal to begin with? The situation that started it all. Let's rewind to when this whole thing first started making waves. The story that captured everyone's attention was straightforward, or at least it seemed that way. You had 21 Savage, one of Atlanta's biggest rap artists. You had Latto, a rising female rapper with serious credibility. And then you had Kiana, 21's wife, quietly in the background while her husband was out here allegedly building something with someone else. The internet ran with it. Tabloids exploded. TikTok creators spent entire videos breaking down the timeline. And for months, it looked like a textbook case of infidelity, a man juggling two women, one of them publicly claiming him while the other sat at home, legally married but emotionally sidelined. It was messy. It was dramatic. It was exactly the kind of celebrity scandal that keeps people scrolling at 2 a.m. Denials and contradictions. But here's what's important to understand. Neither 21 nor Latto initially wanted to confirm what was happening. They went out of their way to deny the relationship. They tried to downplay the interactions. They acted like the public was reading too much into their connection. And yet, despite their attempts to keep things private, they kept getting caught. Photo ops that were too close, moments that were too intimate, a dynamic that couldn't be hidden no matter how hard they tried.
We love you, girl!
Too many close calls. The denials started to feel less like actual denials and more like damage control. Because if there was nothing going on, why were they being so careful? Why the secrecy? Why the coded language? And this is where people started developing theories. Some believed that 21 Savage was only staying with Kiana because of visa issues, that the marriage was purely transactional, a way for him to maintain his legal status in America. It made sense on the surface. It explained why he might stay married while pursuing other relationships. It explained the apparent emotional distance, the visa theory. But then you hit a logical problem. If this was purely a marriage of convenience, why hasn't 21 divorced Kiana after he got his green card? And more importantly, why do he and Kiana have 2 children together? That's not the behavior of someone in a fake marriage. That's real family structure. 2 children together. So if the marriage isn't fake, then we're back to square one. If it's real, how do you reconcile a real marriage with 21 moving around like a single man? How do you explain Kiana staying silent while her husband is publicly involved with someone else? This is where the conventional understanding of the situation completely breaks down. Before Latto, there was to understand what's really happening here, you have to look at this as part of a larger pattern. The Latto situation wasn't the first time 21 Savage has been involved with multiple women. It wasn't even close to being the first time. According to reports, 21 has been known to have affairs with multiple women over the years. And we're not talking about rumors or speculation. We're talking about documented cases where other women came forward with claims of relationships, pregnancies, and expectations. One notable case involves social media personality Gorgeous Doll. According to reports, Gorgeous Doll was supposedly pregnant, and people believed that the baby was 21's child. Think about that for a moment. While this was all happening, while another woman was allegedly carrying his child, Kiana didn't publicly address it. She didn't go on Instagram and call him out. She didn't leak private conversations or threaten divorce. She stayed quiet. Kiana's silence. Now, this is important because it reveals something crucial about Kiana's character and her approach to this situation. She wasn't playing dumb. She wasn't in denial. She was making a conscious choice, a choice that most wives in her position would never make. There was actually a moment when it seemed like things might change. Reports surfaced that Kiana had filed for divorce. For a brief period, it looked like she was finally going to walk away. It looked like she was going to reclaim her dignity and start fresh. But then something unexpected happened. The divorce filing. She called it off. She withdrew the divorce papers. She chose to stay with 21 Savage. Not only that, but she actually started to assert her presence more publicly. She started reminding everyone that she was the legally married wife. She shifted her energy from being quietly in the background to actively claiming her position in the family structure, asserting asserting legal status. This is a major turning point because it suggests that Kiana made a deliberate decision. She wasn't forced into anything. She wasn't confused or manipulated. She actively chose to stay and to step into a more prominent position. And the timing of this shift is important to note. The moment everything changed. Then came the pregnancy announcement. Latto announced that she was expecting a child with 21 Savage. And this is where the narrative takes a turn that most people still don't fully understand. When word got out that Latto was pregnant, the internet expected chaos. People predicted that Kiana would finally snap, that she would go public with her grievances, that she would use this moment to draw a line in the sand and demand accountability. This is what normal, emotionally healthy wives do when their husbands get another woman pregnant. But Kiana didn't do any of that. The expected response never came. Instead, Kiana did something that seemed completely illogical from a traditional perspective. She liked the pregnancy announcement post. Let that sink in for a moment. The legally married wife of a man who is expecting a child with another woman publicly liked the announcement. She engaged with it. She acknowledged it. She didn't just tolerate it, she appeared to celebrate it. She liked the post. Now think about what this action communicates. It's not passive acceptance. It's not someone staying quiet to avoid making a scene. It's active approval. It's a public statement that says, I see this, I acknowledge this, and I'm okay with this. The situation only got more confusing when Kiana showed up to one of 21's shows and her behavior was completely consistent with someone who felt secure in her position. She wasn't there acting like a betrayed wife. She wasn't standing to the side, cold and distant. She was actively engaged, cheering him on and reinforcing her connection to him. The show appearance. And this is the moment where casual observers start to realize that something fundamental about this situation doesn't add up. Because if Kiana was genuinely betrayed, if she was genuinely devastated by her husband, expecting a child with another woman, she wouldn't be at his shows. She wouldn't be engaging publicly. She wouldn't be presenting herself as part of his team. Still claiming him. The fact that she's still claiming him, still supporting him, and still showing up suggests something radical. She was never hurt by this situation in the first place. She was never blindsided. She never felt betrayed because she was already in on it. What Latto is really saying. Now let's talk about Latto's defense because it's been carefully constructed and very specific. She spent considerable energy pushing back against the narrative that she's a side chick. She's made it clear that she considers herself a real wife, not a mistress. And the language she uses matters because it hints at something much bigger. I live with my man. I don't even come second. Y'all need to get off the tea pages and go touch grass. My privacy is driving you up a wall, mistress, to who? Why they don't see the cars, diamonds, etc. The real wife claim. Notice what she's doing here. She's not just saying she's in a relationship with 21. She's specifically saying she lives with him. She's saying she doesn't come second. She's implying that she receives the same benefits, the same status, the same recognition as a wife would. And most importantly, she's implying that people should understand why she feels this way. According to insiders who have spoken about this situation, Latto has been making claims that completely reframe the narrative. She's arguing that she isn't technically a side piece, but a real wife herself. And here's the key part. She believes that the legality of marriage doesn't actually matter. She says it's just a piece of paper. What matters is the actual relationship, the commitment, and the role she plays in 21's life. Just a piece of paper. This is a radical statement because it's rejecting the traditional Western understanding of marriage. It's saying that marriage certificates and legal status are irrelevant if the emotional and relational bonds are there. It's saying that you can have multiple wives without a legal framework, and those women can all be legitimately considered wives. But here's where it gets even more interesting. There's a religious framework that makes this entire situation make perfect sense. The missing piece. 21 Savage is a devoted follower of the Yoruba religion, also known as Ifa or Ifa. He's been very public about this faith and how it shapes his worldview and his daily life. He's spoken about his spiritual practices, his connection to his ancestors, and how his religion guides his decisions.
You know, the way you articulated on Breakfast Club, like, it really feels like a guiding principle on how you live your life.
21's spiritual practice.
So with Ifa, it's like my ancestors guide me. I cook for my ancestors every week. I give them water every week. I talk to them every week. Paying respects to everything, respecting everything around you.
Ancestor veneration. Now, this is crucial information because the Yoruba religion has a very specific position on something that Western society generally condemns: polygamy. Within the Yoruba faith tradition, polygamy isn't just accepted in some cases, it's actually encouraged. A man is allowed to marry multiple wives, and this isn't considered a moral failing or a betrayal. It's considered a legitimate family structure. But, and this is important, there are rules. There are conditions that must be met. yet. Polygamy in the Yoruba tradition isn't a free-for-all where a man can do whatever he wants without accountability. Yoruba polygamy rules. According to the principles of the religion, a man with multiple wives has clear obligations. He must care for each wife equally emotionally, financially, and in every other way. He can't favor one wife over another. He can't neglect one while privileging another. The wives must be aware of the family structure they're entering. They must understand their roles, and they must consent to the arrangement. Equal care requirements. This framework completely recontextualizes everything we've been seeing. If 21 Savage is operating within a Yoruba polygamous structure, then what looked like betrayal and infidelity from a Western perspective is actually a structured, religiously sanctioned family arrangement. The denials make sense because he and his wives were protecting the privacy of their spiritual practice. The lack of public drama makes sense because everyone involved understood what was happening, and Kiana's behavior, her silence, her acceptance, her public support suddenly doesn't seem irrational or weak. It seems like the behavior of a woman who agreed to this arrangement from the beginning. The arrangement makes sense, what insiders are claiming. Now, if all of this is true, it leads to an even more radical claim. According to insiders, Latto isn't just saying that she's a wife. She's claiming that Kiana is fully on board with the entire situation, not just tolerating it, not just accepting it, but actively participating in it. The claim is that Kiana, Latto, and 21 Savage allegedly had a threesome together, and more than that, they allegedly live as one big happy family. This isn't some hidden arrangement that Kiana resents. This is a family structure that all three of them are participating in, and according to these claims, enjoying. Sister-wives structure. Now, this might sound shocking to people who are used to traditional Western relationship models, but within the context of Yoruba polygamy, this is actually not uncommon. Multiple wives often develop their own relationships with each other. They support each other. They co-parent. They create a family unit that, while unconventional by American standards, is perfectly normal and functional within their cultural and spiritual framework. The reason this is important is because it changes how we interpret literally everything about this situation. The public-facing drama that we all witnessed, the tensions, the subtweeting, the rivalry, might have been theater. It might have been a performance designed to protect the privacy of their actual arrangement while they navigated public scrutiny. What looked like drama? Latto was publicly defending her position and claiming her status as a wife, not because she felt insecure, but because she needed to correct the record. The public was calling her a side chick, and she needed to set that straight. She needed people to understand that she was a wife in a legitimate polygamous union, not a mistress in a scandalous affair. Kiana's public assertions of her status as the legal wife, her liking the pregnancy post, her showing up to events, her public declarations of support weren't desperate attempts to hold onto a cheating man. They were confirmations of her role in a structured family arrangement, what we really witnessed. So here's what we need to understand. What the internet has been watching as a messy infidelity situation might have actually been something completely different. If Kiana knew everything, saw everything, and co-signed everything from the beginning, then this was never chaos. It was just unconventional. What looked like disrespect might have been understood and agreed upon from day one. What appeared to be a betrayal might have been a consensual family structure that all parties entered into with full awareness and agreement. A consensual arrangement. This doesn't mean that everything about the situation is necessarily healthy or right. That's not the point. The point is that we fundamentally misunderstood what we were looking at. We interpreted a private, spiritually informed family structure through the lens of Western relationship norms, and in doing so, we created a narrative of victimization and betrayal that might not have actually existed. Kiana wasn't a woman whose husband was cheating on her. She was a woman who had agreed to share her husband according to her spiritual beliefs. Latto wasn't a homewrecker or a side chick. She was a second wife in a polygamous arrangement, and 21 Savage wasn't a cheater trying to hide his misdeeds. He was a spiritual practitioner, honoring the traditions of his faith. The real truth. The internet's obsession with this situation said much more about our own cultural assumptions than it did about what was actually happening behind closed doors. We wanted there to be a villain. We wanted there to be a victim. We wanted to watch a relationship crumble in real time, but the reality might be far more complicated and, in its own way, far more unconventional. Heat. What looked like one thing from the outside was something entirely different on the inside.